Hi, Renee. Nice to have you on the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's great to be with you. Exciting. This is the way of the future.
I think the last time we saw each other was on the dance floor at convention in Portland.
It was,
That was
yes,
a lot of fun.
a joyful time.
Yeah, yeah. So the first thing I want to kind of get caught up on was, your call to ministry and where you are now. You're in
Uh,
Michigan, right?
I'm in Michigan. I've been here 30 years.
Right.
Yep. Yep. My first church still. Yeah,
Really.
still my
And
first.
your call to ministry, how did that happen? When did that happen?
Okay. Well, yeah, that has a lot to do with faith journeying for me. I've always known there was a God, even as a little girl. It's just kind of a knowing. Nobody asked me about that, but I remember my dad was a minister of the El Cerrito Hillside Swedenborgian Church for 2 years when I was just a girl. I
El
was
Cerrito,
about,
that's California, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the Bay Area, the
Bay
Hillside,
Area. Yes. Oh,
yep,
Hillside. Okay.
Hillside, where Reverend Tom Mueller is now,
Yes, right.
and Tassie.
Mhm.
So my dad was minister of that church for a couple years when he had been ordained, and so I have great remains, great childhood implanted heavenly memories of that church. Just
Mm.
2 years, and then he left the church. He could think the theology, but he was having a hard time feeling it in his heart.
Huh.
So he needed to go into intensive therapy. So uh, he brought the family to LA to go through something called primal therapy, which is kind of a regression therapy, reliving your past so that you're free from the chains of it by re experiencing it with skilled therapists. He had a 2 year program of intensive therapy and dealt with his smoking issues. He was a smoker. He was also dealing with some anger issues. He
Mm.
wanted to be a better father. So early on, when he was minister of the Hillside Church in the Bay Area, we went a couple years, and there was just that was where I felt the best as a girl. I remember, and I still have this warm glow
Mm.
inside myself when I think back and feel what it was like to be there, like on Christmas Eve.
Right.
The candles lit, the potluck. I could smell the potluck. We used to slide on the wooden floors on big puffy pillows, and we used to slide down the hillside on cardboard and just have a blast. I just had so much fun with that church and in that area, and it was just a couple years, and it just planted God solid for me in the church.
Mm.
It was just something that felt like I was home there and I was at peace there, even as a 7 year old.
Mm.
And I didn't experience that as my call. I'm not saying that,
Right.
but that's the roots of my faith. That was kind of like tilling the ground in a big garden.
When
It
you
was
use the word home, that was very much my feeling. The first Swedenborgian church I went to was the San Francisco church.
ah
And yeah, it was a feeling of home. Hmm.
wow, yeah. So you know what that feels like.
Yeah, that was probably around 93.
Okay. And for me, the years that were most precious were roughly 1972 to 74, to 74 or 75, something like that.
Right, right.
Uh, yeah. And then I think my dad went into, we moved to LA, and then he did the 2 years of therapy there. I was going through some bullying at that time. I was bullied
Mm.
there. We were a minority. There were a lot of gang fights and things like that at that time in Sepulveda,
Mm.
California, near
Okay.
LA.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that was difficult. But after the 2 years there, then we relocated to the southernmost little fishing town in Oregon, Brookings, just the town just north of Crescent City, California.
Mm.
And so I grew up with my brothers, my three brothers, on the coast of the Pacific Ocean, and it was beautiful. So the ocean is a big part of my soul, and it was there that my father, well, I'll just say he had a counseling practice, so he became a therapist for a bit. He
Wow.
didn't go back into the ministry right away, uh, and what was happening was is that us kids were having kind of spiritual awakening experiences at that time. Dad
Really?
wasn't. Dad was still quite defended emotionally about God, and he was raised by the Swedenborgian minister,
Right.
and his father had a father who was Swedenborgian minister. So I'm Kit Billings and I, Reverend Kit Billings and I, are fourth
Yeah.
generation Swedenborgian
Fourth
on
generation.
both sides.
On both sides.
I tried to run, but I couldn't because it was because you'll find out why in a minute. But
Yeah, tell me
so
about the awakenings.
yeah, so us kids were having dreams and having experiences. We asked my dad. He had the Green 30, which is Swedenborg's theological works,
Yes. Right, right.
and he had them on a shelf. And he never talked about God. We did not pray. Dad had issues with God, his own emotional journey, and
Yeah.
that's part of what unfolded for him with therapy.
Mm.
So anyway, us kids started to resuscitate my dad's faith because we were asking questions. We said, Dad, why do you have all these green books? And we're having these dreams of God and dreams of spiritual experience, especially Kit and I,
Yeah.
Rhett also. And we have another one. Kit has an identical twin, and he's a little bit more of a spiritual but not religious
Yeah.
sort.
Right.
Kit's twin.
Uh-huh.
But Rhett, Kit, and I are more religious. And we were having these spiritual experiences, and we started to ask questions at the dinner table, and we started to resuscitate very gently, Dad's own faith journey. He eventually had a dream vision and came. We all just kind of woke up as a family when we were in high school, and we said, and
Mm.
Dad told us there was a convention, and we all said, we want to go. Let's
Okay.
try that. So
Yeah.
us kids were more excited about God and religion than my dad was.
Yeah.
And my mom was always very spiritual and raised in the Kansas church, Pawnee Rock, very, very spiritual, loving Sunday school teacher. So my
Mm.
mom just stayed quiet. She wanted to give dad his space
Yeah.
with his faith struggles.
Right.
But mom was quietly very spiritual through the years. It was in her
Um,
very being. But she
right.
didn't talk about things. We didn't pray because she wanted to give dad space.
Mhm.
So we started to talk. Then we went to a convention, the Seattle at Puget Sound, um, in the 80s.
In the 80s.
And I remember Michael, Reverend Horon Gutfeld, who was a refugee from Germany who was in World War II.
Right.
And he was responsible, he fled Germany after murdering Jews. And he said to me, he lived with a guilt that would be what he would say caused his death, his cancer. But
Oh,
he was an interesting sort. And I went to this convention and I saw ministers doing what they were doing. And I just sort of innocently said to myself, wow, can you imagine being paid? Even it doesn't matter how much. Can you imagine making a living helping people find God? And I just kind of innocently asked that question to myself. And then the president of the Swedenborg School of Religion had a class at convention saying, if you're interested or curious about seminary, come to this session. Well, I went just because I wanted to hear and learn. I didn't even, I was a little bit dull. I didn't even think to myself, just young, I think, not dull, but young, just thinking to myself, I just want to hear what people have to say.
mm,
And so after that session with the Swedenborg School of Religion and the professors talked, of the caliber of Reverend Dr. George Dole, Reverend Dr. Bill Woofenden,
mm,
Reverend Dr. Dorothea Harvey,
mhm,
Reverend Dr. Bob Curvin. These were the professors of the day. And they were my professors. And they were exquisite. And after that after that convention session, uh, I just I just started to dream a little bit. I didn't even think it would be me, but Harand Gutfeld, the German refugee, he
Yeah.
ran to the hills to get out of Germany because didn't want to kill people anymore. And that's when he turned his life over to God and became a Swedenborgian minister after that, when he got to the United States. But
Oh.
he said to me, he had this goatee, this gray goatee, and he stroked his beard. And we walked around part of Puget Sound. And he said, "It looks like you need to talk." And I
Huh.
said, "Would you mind?" And so he basically put his hands behind his back while we walked along the sound, and he stroked his goatee. Yes, and he didn't really say anything. He just let me talk and just say, it's just amazing that there's something that exists where people can help other people find their faith and find God. And he didn't even recommend anything. He just listened. He never said, "Oh, you should go into the ministry." Yes, yes. No, no. He just stroked his beard and nodded, you know. And so I went about my life after that. I went to school. I went to a couple of universities studying psych and
Okay.
and social work.
Right.
Got my degree in social work with an emphasis in psychology, thinking I would be a counselor. And I got a nice scholarship to Case Western Reserve University,
Yeah.
which I turned down to the first runner-up because in undergrad I was raped by three men, three popular athletes, and so it tore me up. I developed. I didn't tell anybody I was married to a different person at that time, and I didn't tell him because I felt guilt that I put myself in a position to get raped. And that's what women struggle with, and anybody, men too, that get raped, you think it's your fault.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
was I was young in undergrad, and they threatened me, and they said, "If you tell anybody, we'll destroy your husband." So I didn't tell anybody, and I developed an ulcer,
Yes.
and so I'm living with this trauma, and uh, and the truth is that I was getting very close to starting. I met my grad professors at Case Western, but I was getting very close to starting grad school with this horrible ache in my gut from what had happened. This was at the end of my undergrad. It was during a spring fling week that I experienced this, and and I knew, Michael, that nothing would take this pain and transform it except God. I
Yeah.
just knew it. And I also knew that counseling gets us to the precipice of our faith. And I think counseling is essential for somebody like
Mm.
me. I've had 10 years of counseling to work through that rape and other issues in my life. But counseling gets me and gets us to the precipice of our faith, and then there has to be a point where we let God in, and we
Yeah.
have to be ready. And God knows when we're ready. If we're not ready, it's not genuine faith. It's
Mhm.
trying, which is good too. Swedenborg talks about acting as if we have faith when we
Right.
don't,
Right.
right? And
Yes.
that's all a part of the journey.
Right.
But I knew that if I went into counseling, that it wouldn't really be
Yeah.
healing at its depth the
Yeah.
way that God is.
Right.
So I turned down my Case Western Reserve scholarship, and I signed up for the Swedenborg School of Religion for seminary.
Huh.
So
And this was
some
in what year now?
I started seminary in 1991. So my at that time seminary was 4 years. So my brother Kit and I, started at the same time in 1991, and we were ordained in 95. So that's a solid 4 years. But and all of that was in the spring of 91, the trauma, and then the summer comes and I'm getting ready for grad school in the fall. And then, no, no, that's not what I want. That's not where the healing really, I knew if I was going to ever find peace and the chains would be released in my gut from what happened to me, it had to be something that was larger than myself, larger than the processing
Mm-hmm.
that I needed to do, which I needed to do too. I needed the counseling, and I needed to work through psychological barriers and feelings. And then I also needed the grace of
Mm.
God to unleash, really, really transform. And then what God does then for me, and I help other people as well in my ministry, is to uh, definitely use the pain and become useful in it. So, in other words, I am a police chaplain now, a volunteer police chaplain. I'm also a cancer chaplain. I was a cancer chaplain and a hospice chaplain for 10 years, in addition to the congregation that I serve, which is my first love. It's always just get me in any church and I'm happy.
Yes.
I don't care
Right.
what religion it is.
Right.
I just love church and I can't help myself.
I didn't know police chaplain was a thing, but
Oh,
that
yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Sure. I've been called to quite a few suicides. I've been called to quite a few domestic violence calls. So I
Wow.
know what going through personal violence means, and I know how hard it is to overcome. And I know, and I don't have suicide in my family directly, my immediate family, but I know the chains of violence, and I know what they can do to our soul and to our being and our mind and our life if we don't let God help us. So the reason I'm bringing all this up about my volunteer service work is that all of this stems from my own pain.
Yeah.
And God has helped me to use my pain in a way that helps humanity.
Yeah.
So, as long as there is a way, and I think that's true faith,
Mm.
that's taking what is broken and serving others from a wisdom of a brokenness, and to say there is hope. We can overcome with the help of a power greater than self. We cannot imagine how to get out of the pain of trauma if it's just us doing it
Yeah.
at the horizontal level. But
Yeah.
here's the cross. So we do psychology and healing on the horizontal level is what we do in this world with others and for others. The cross at the vertical level where God meets our pain is where then we are very, very, we can be so useful to one another.
Mm.
So I'm not glad that I was raped, but I am so grateful that every inch of that experience is being used in how I serve the police, how I serve cancer patients, how I've served people who are dying, my congregation in their daily walk
Yeah.
and their weekly walk
Mm-hmm.
of what it means to be human and to be broken and then to be whole. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, I have a favorite quote that is born from my life, how God has helped my life,
What's
which
that?
is Swedenborg.
Okay.
And it's from the Arcana Celestia, which is also called Heavenly Secrets.
Yes.
And that's paragraph 842,
Okay.
which says, before anything can be brought back into order, it is quite normal for it to be brought first into a kind of confusion, a virtual chaos. And in this way, things that fit together badly are severed from each other. And once they have been severed, then the Lord can rearrange them in a better order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's my
Right.
life. And that's what I strive to do to help people, is to see that
Yeah.
when we fall apart, that there's actually good that comes from it, so that God can then rearrange us, and we evolve and we grow. We're,
Mhm.
we're hurt, yes, but we become even stronger angels in the end, wiser, more
Yes.
loving. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I want to ask about the dreams,
Yeah.
because we have a lot of dreams that we forget. I mean, maybe you remember it for a few hours and then it disappears, right?
Yeah.
But there are some dreams that they seem more than that, and we never forget them. Would you describe
Yeah.
these dreams that way?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, my, in undergrad, this was the first undergrad university, or yeah, Southern Oregon State College, actually, is what it was, in Ashland, Oregon. I was in my early 20s, and I was engaged, and that broke apart, and I started to live. I needed a place to rent while I was in college, and this gal said, "Hey, you can come and share the rent with me. I've got an extra room," and that worked for me. So I was there, and she started to eat a lot of ice cream. I know this seems silly, and she said, uh, "Here, grab this half gallon and eat this." And I said, "Well," I said, I just, my fiance and I just broke up. I can't get fat. I'm going to be looking for somebody else. I don't want to eat all this ice cream." And she says, "Oh, no, eat it all. And then all you have to do is throw it up." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, you just stick your finger down your throat and you throw it up." So I said, "Well, God, that's gross." But she goes, "Yeah, just look, just eat it all and I'll show you how to do it." And then she showed me how to do it. So all of a sudden, I have a new roommate who is teaching me how to be bulimic. And so after about a month of eating pizza and ice cream, all we want, just living like that. And I was getting thin. And my cousin comes up to me. He comes into town and he says, "Renee, you look really skinny." He says, "You look bad." And that was just after a month of doing this. And
Wow.
I said, "Oh, I don't look good." And he says, "You look really skinny." So I went back to my room, and I took my clothes off, and I looked in the long mirror, and I could see my bones. And I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is not good. This is not healthy. I don't know what I'm doing." And so I fell to my knees, and my body was looking up. My head was looking up to the ceiling, but I didn't even think to myself that I was praying, but my body was praying. And I just said to myself, now remember, we didn't grow up praying because my dad was working
Right.
through his stuff.
Yes.
So it didn't occur to me to pray, but
Uh-huh.
I just said to myself, I can't imagine anything that could help me feel better. And in that very second that I wondered that, my mom calls and she says, "Renee, I don't know why I'm calling you, but I just want you to know I love you." And I really wanted to tell her that I was lost, that I was living with this roommate and doing this, but I felt embarrassed. So
Mm.
I didn't tell her, and I said, "Thanks, Mom." And I hung up, and I was crying a little bit, and I went to bed.
Mm.
That morning, I had a very lucid dream, what I would call a dream vision, where the dream's short, but I was thrust up to the ceiling. The start of the dream is my whole self was thrust up to the ceiling,
Yep.
and I pressed up against it so that my right cheek was flush against the ceiling.
Hmm.
And then that was most of the dream. And then all of a sudden, I'm being held by this hand, and the hand just lowers me to the point where the top of my head is at touching the ceiling. And then I just kind of unkink my neck, and I look to the left and there's nothing there. And then I look to the right, and there was the face of Christ smiling at me. And he gets a little bit closer, and he starts to talk with me, to me,
Uh-huh.
very quietly. And he knows I have one completely deaf ear. And he's talking very quietly in my deaf ear in the dream.
Uh-huh.
And I can't quite hear him. And he's smiling and he's talking to me. And, the God is talking. And I knew it was substantive, but I couldn't hear. So what did I do? Dream's almost over.
Turn to the
What
other.
I turned to the left
Uh-huh.
because I thought, well, I can't hear him. I wonder what's going on over here. And I knew there was nothing to the left because I started out on the left.
Right.
I looked to the left, and then I said to myself, I wonder if I'm going to go to heaven or hell. And then I was just thrust down past the floor of the room of the dream, not to hell, but I woke up. My brother, my oldest brother, was
Yeah.
knocking on the door to take me home for the summer.
Huh.
And he knocked on the door. He and I have always had a spiritual connection. And
Yeah.
he was knocking on the door. So he woke me up out of the dream. And I can tell you that even though I was thrust down past the floor and then I woke up out of the dream, I I was flooded with insights of that dream vision interaction that lasted all summer. I knew immediately that what that was doing was that Christ was saying, "It's time for you to pay attention to your life, Renee."
Huh.
Because I don't know if you've known anybody with a hearing impairment, but because I have had trouble hearing in my life,
Yeah.
I lived in a daydream a lot. I just
Mm.
kind of decided that if I couldn't hear somebody pretty quickly, that I would tune out
Yeah.
and I would just nod
Yeah.
or just I in school or as well as in my relationships. I hear about half of what people say.
Mm.
And so he knew that it was intentional that I wouldn't be able to hear him. And he knew that I would look away and that I would be in a daydream question and that I would need to be, woken up and to say, pay attention to your life now. And then
Mm.
the next
Mm.
insight that came was that my whole life was read in that dream. I felt like every page of my life was known by this being that had come to me in this dream vision. That every choice I'd made, every season of my life, every age up to 21, 22, whatever I was. And so I just knew, and I was kind of flinching because of some choices I had made.
Huh. Huh. Huh.
But I felt this incredible sense of divine mercy
Mm.
and understanding, so that every bit of me was known and loved and understood, so that I didn't have to worry, I didn't
Mm.
have to fear,
Mhm.
so that before this dream, I was empty and bored a lot. I was empty inside and unsatisfied, just as a general state of being, bored,
Mhm.
very easily bored.
Oh,
Ever
wow.
since that dream vision, I haven't been bored a minute of my life.
Huh.
Everything that had felt empty was now not only full, but bubbling over with life and meaning and purpose and a sense of connection with everything and everyone.
Now, I gotta say, there's some things about that that sound a little bit like an astral projection, an out of body experience. The fact that you were
Ah,
in your room, that you were going up in the ceiling. I mean, had
yeah.
you thought about that before? The
No, just, I'm going to tell you, and I don't know if I should share this, but after this dream vision with Christ, for the rest of the summer, I had dreams of hell. And
really?
I was being taught something. And so in those dreams, I was having these dreams that I was possessed all summer long by a very evil female demon, and I worked through that whole summer of I didn't want to go to bed at night because I knew I'd get this visit, and it worked. I worked with this experience all summer long until it went away.
I'm glad you brought this up because there was a question I wanted to ask you that I
Yeah.
forgot to write down. And that is if you believe that exorcisms are real.
Oh,
Because I'm personally like, yeah, I feel 70% chance that they're real.
I think
Um,
sometimes.
yeah,
I don't think there it's all or nothing. Um,
there's definitely fake ones, sure.
oh yeah. I can't say that they're not real. Um, if they're guided by the divine, I would say possibly,
Hmm.
possibly, yeah,
Yeah.
possibly. I don't have experience with that, but I do feel, Michael, that these dreams, I was being prepared for ministry and in my own faith journey. Not that ministry involves evil, but I'm just saying that I'm being prepared. I was a bit naive
Ah.
uh, before before seminary. Not yet. This is prior to being raped. So this is my earliest adult year years in this first college. So what I actually, if I'm being if I hope that this is understood by listeners.
Hmm.
I do feel that I went through being possessed in my dreams. I feel like something would come into me at night, and so the dream so progressed over the summer of learning the Lord's Prayer,
Ah.
and when I could recite the Lord's Prayer at the end of the summer by memory with a feeling in my heart of reciting it, that presence went away. But that was in the dream, and so either I was being taught by a dream or I was going through something like that. It feels very real to me. It was very lucid,
Yeah. Right. Right, right.
you
Yeah,
know.
it's an interesting distinction because there's so many dreams that just like flit away and we forget, and then there are others that you think, maybe this wasn't just a dream. How can I remember this for decades and the way it shaped my life? That doesn't seem like just a dream.
No, and
And
my oldest brother reported having a female demon also at that time.
oh, at the same time.
So, not the same nights, but
Yeah,
in the same season of our lives. He's a year and a half older than I am, and we're both very spiritually connected. And
right.
we both, to this day, I haven't sensed the presence of it in quite a while, but we both will still refer to this when we feel vulnerable to it.
Hmm.
So it wasn't just me; it was him too. So
Were there any physical attributes of the demon that were in common? Did you discuss
not
what it looked
really
like?
the face, the look, but that it
Just
was
female.
female,
No.
and that the sound of her voice was like when you scrape your fingernails on a chalkboard. There was a screech that he also heard. It was the sound of her voice, and that she floats at the at the top of the house in us. And and actually it was the dream was is that she entered in through my cerebral cortex, and and then I would be 99% her and 1% me, and I could feel the 1% me inside of there. And then I would recite the Lord's Prayer and forget it because I wasn't raised in religion except for those 2 years, so I didn't have it memorized or anything. And so I
Ah,
would start to say it, and then she would start to leave, but then I'd forget, and then she'd flood back in. And
So when you were in that possession state, like I was going to ask, like, were you, was it observational? Were you like feeling tortured, or were you just like had that gross feeling of being 99% demon?
all of the above. I felt like she was in control. Uh, I was me a little bit. And then I also could feel her desire to do harm,
Yeah, right.
which is why the good Lord allowed it to happen. I'm sure that it was educational to know what evil is. The difference between neurosis in psychology and what evil is. So we can have a major neurotic dysfunction, but not really deep down mean to do harm.
Uh-huh.
And we do harm. When we're hurt, we hurt people. That's what we
Often.
do. That's the
Yeah.
essence of dysfunctional relationships.
Mm.
And we don't really mean to hurt people. We're just a mess. We're a
Yeah.
hot mess.
Right.
But evil is the intent to harm.
Yeah.
And so I was being taught that there is a force in us
Mm.
that enjoys doing harm.
Yeah. Right.
And
Right.
it's important to understand the difference between psychological neurosis and even psychosis
Hmm.
versus evil. And I know that the reason why I was allowed to have these experiences in a dream form, lucid, is because I really am a warrior spirit. Right before my Christian ordination into the church, I did an Apache medicine vision quest out in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. I studied Apache medicine for a couple of years while in seminary out in Boston. And then I wanted to do a 4 day and 4 night uh, fast in the woods before I was ordained into the church. And so I wanted to be cleansed. I was seeking a vision.
Mm.
And through that, uh, I've come to see that I am a loving warrior, not to fight, but to pray, to stand for the good, to courageously value the falling apart process about that
Mm.
quote, to value that we must really fall apart before we're brought back together better. And that takes a kind of courage, and it's not for everybody, but I love it. I love it. And I know that my father was the role model for that. Even though he left the ministry, he faced he faced the falling apart to be brought back together better. And I love that we can face the truth even when it hurts,
Mm.
because when
Mm.
we face the truth, whatever that is,
Hmm.
even if getting raped,
Mm.
face what all that did and what that meant to me and how it tore me up and how it led me to God, and all the redemptive qualities and the agonizing qualities of that. That's who I am. It's what I'm about. And that's why I love the congregational ministry, because people go through their own faith journeys, and sometimes they need to fall apart in order to find a more genuine faith. So I did this vision quest, and it was darn difficult. All I had was water for 4 days and nights. I was out in the woods by myself with a sitter, uh, and it wasn't until the third morning that I had the vision, which was that I looked back and I saw at the edge of the forest, I saw 12, in the Christian tradition I would say 12 angels,
Yeah.
but they were 12 medicine men and women, 6 medicine men and 6 medicine women,
Uh-huh.
and they all stood there and they nodded,
Uh-huh.
and I knew that they were assigned to me. And
Mm.
so what happened then was 10 years of ordained ministry here in Royal Oak, Michigan. I didn't really call on them. I didn't remember them or acknowledge them. I just knew that they were there.
Mm.
Then a man came to me at my office one day and he said, "I'm dying of liver cancer. And he said, in order for me to live, I need to stay alive long enough for a liver donor to be for me.
Right. Yes.
And so he said, I need your healing prayer, your hands on prayers to help me keep me alive. I wasn't the only thing that kept him alive, but I was a part of his healing team. And that was 10 years after this dream. No, I'm sorry, after this vision quest. And I saw these 12 angels, these 12 medicine men and women, and I'd never thought of them for 10 years. I put my hand on his liver, and all of a sudden, one of them steps forward in my mind and says, it's time. We're activating now. And so I'm doing this healing prayer on this man. His name is Mark. And I even told him, I said, there's someone here that is working through me. And he has been with me for a long time. And he is a healer. And so he lived. Answers came. The liver came. He still comes to my church. He's alive 20 years later. 20 years later. And so I always say, our prayers and our faith, we seeds are planted, just like
Mm.
they showed themselves to me in the woods during this vision quest. It took 10 years for me to be ready and for the moment to be right that God said, it's time to utilize your healing team on the other side. And so I do now. They're stepping forward all the time, and each one has its purpose.
Right.
And sometimes one of them is the death angel, and I'll know when a parishioner will die soon. And I don't say anything. It's just for me to know,
Uh huh.
so
Uh
that I
huh.
can pastor more accurately, more laser focused in my approach to the parishioner.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah, we've just had 7 deaths this year, and
Oh
it's
my gosh!
happened.
And a congregation of how many?
Well, we have between 20, I would say the low end would be 22, but this is online and in person,
Okay. Right.
between 20 and 30 roughly. Christmas is more and Easter's more, but between 20 and 30. But the strange thing, Michael, is it's a
Huh.
wonderful thing is as soon as somebody dies, God sends a new person to the church, and it
That's
stays roughly the same
oh my gosh.
the same number of people for 30 years.
Hallelujah.
It's interesting because I think when 2 or 3 people die in a year, I think, oh boy, okay, this could be it. The church may not have a critical mass now.
Mm,
Then, sure
mm, mm.
enough, a few people start coming in the door that we didn't know before, and it's
Wow.
just, happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. One of the things I'm going to be talking about throughout the podcast in this series is how our language has this word faith that doesn't capture the spectrum, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
capture the journey, that it kind of seems to imply off or on, black or white.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm, uh, I'm going to do a segment about the faith of angels, because
Ooh.
this is something in the first book of Arcana Celestia where he talks about the angels in the celestial heaven. They don't really know about faith, need faith, care
Yeah.
about faith. But angels in lower heavens do have faith or need faith. And I think, I mean, you'd think, why would an angel need faith? You're in heaven, you're there, there's the Lord, what? Um, and I'm wondering if on the other side, this faith is really about letting go of our ego, of our proprium, and our ability to get closer to the Lord, and the extent to which we're able to do that
Mm.
is
Yes.
kind of the new faith journey. That it's, I don't know, maybe less about, you know, believing in Jesus or the Lord exists, and more about believing we are one with Source, and that it's okay to let that ego dissolve, right?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Well said. I resonate with that. Yeah. And, I remember Reverend Dr. George Dole used to say, we have to build a self first before we give it away.
Ah,
So, this, all of this, so faith is so important in especially the first, I'd say half, but everybody's different, Some people find it at the very end of life, everybody's
mm,
different. Everybody's wonderfully unique in when they find their genuine faith. And so the self must be built up. We must feel as if we are operating from our own self, our proprium, our ego.
mhm.
It is absolutely important that we build that identity, and because, as Swedenborg says, the first part of life we value truth more than love. He says, we want to build knowledge. Hey, look what I know. We
Mhm.
hunger and thirst for knowledge. That's what, picking from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is. It's that first temptation.
Right.
We
Yes.
just want to know. We're impressed by people who know a lot. That's the big
Right.
temptation of the internet.
Uh-huh.
We just want to know. We want to gobble, gobble, gobble information. And we want to say, look how much I am and know. And that's a part of the process. We must do this.
Mhm.
And that's what's impressive to us.
Yeah.
Uh, that must crumble eventually. And what then must happen is a reversal so that love must lead our understanding. That is the goal,
Yes. Right.
right?
Right. Mm.
So the more that we let love lead and understanding follow, or knowledge and understanding, intelligence, all these things, um, to that extent, we're tapped into that source, because that's love, right? So ultimately, it's about giving self away. It's about
Mm.
it's about merging and seeing that we are all one. Uh, but early on, we want to stand up and stand apart. We want to,
Yes.
right, and
Seems
that's
like
how it
the
should be.
teenage adolescent years.
Yeah, and young adult too. Young adult too.
Yeah, for sure. Right.
Yeah, as
There
it
is
should
another
be.
there is another quote from Arcana Celestia I'll probably be coming back to a lot, and that
Ah,
is that charity or love wants to be with faith as long as faith doesn't put itself first or primary. You heard
yep,
that one?
yep, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that
That's the
was.
same concept. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, and yet he gives room for people who do love faith more than love.
right.
I think that's the first heaven, maybe.
Uh huh.
Right? That's the foundation
I
of heaven,
believe that.
the feet.
Right.
Right, the external heaven.
Mm,
And that's and we have to have that too. I mean, there are all different kinds of loves. Not everybody can be in the celestial heaven and love fully.
yes. Right.
Uh, that's an interesting theology as well, as kind of the strata, the social strata of heaven, and
Right.
the social strata of this world. Is that
Right.
diversity? Yeah.
Mm. So, one of the things I want to ask of all of my guests is favorite song, band, genre, or hymn. Do you have
Aha.
one?
Yeah. I unbeknownst to me, when I first announced that this was my favorite hymn, I found out it was my grandfather's favorite as well. It's
Really?
we would be building by the Finlandia tune.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, my head is exploding.
Why?
Okay.
Why?
Because I heard that the one and only time I went to the Bernathen church.
What?
It was like on Memorial Day or
Yeah.
something, and they played it, and
Oh,
I totally fell in love with it. It is, yes,
really?
probably my favorite hymn too.
What?
And I had it at my wedding, and
You did?
yes, yes,
Oh
yes.
my gosh. Sibelius wrote it. Yeah,
Right, right,
Sibelius.
right. And I
Yeah.
feel like maybe there've been a couple offshoots, a couple different
Hmm.
versions or
Yeah.
something, but
Oh my
okay,
goodness.
definitely going to be playing that. Definitely going to be playing that on this show.
Oh, I love it. You are a kindred soul.
Totally. Oh my gosh, that's great. That's great.
There was one other contemporary, fairly, I mean, it's from the 70s, another tune that I love, which is from the Bee Gees. It's called Too Much Heaven. And if whenever somebody does my funeral, I would like that one played as well. Uh, it's my whole goal is that we can't get enough heaven here on earth. We just need it so much. There's so
Mm,
much about this world that's hard. And I just really, I still am in touch with that. To close this conversation, I'm still in touch with the teenage girl in me who said, I can't believe anybody would be able to get paid to help people find God.
mm,
And I don't, I'm not talking about the amount of pay. It's just if you could make a living helping people find heaven on earth. And so that tune also is very important to me. Too Much Heaven.
mm. Okay. All right. I will listen to that too because I'm not sure I know that one.
Oh, okay. Too Much Heaven by the Bee Gees.
All right.
Oh,
Cool. Thank you so much for being my first guest.
oh,
This
I
was
love it.
great. This was better than I could have imagined. I
Oh,
definitely made the right choice.